What's up, everyone, geeks and everyone else? Welcome to Geek Mythology, a podcast brought to you by my good friend Sow.
Seth here, also known as Sugey on YouTube.
Yeah, so you may call us geeks. Well, the fact that we are geeks could be considered a myth itself, but I'd like to think that we have some good knowledge of the various fandoms and the topics we want to talk about in this podcast. This podcast is focused on fandoms, and we like to get into the nitty-gritty of these fandoms and stories, exploring the stories, the characters, the lore, and I guess the mythology, geek mythology. And as I said, we could be considered geeks, but then we're geeks in different things. Like, I'm not really into Harry Potter as much as Sal, but I'm really, really into Star Wars, for example. So it would be super interesting to see, like, to ask the experts.
And I've also had experience in other things such as anime and manga and sort of
and
that side of nerdy, geeky things.
Yeah, but I've not seen many anime at all, so
and I mentioned before, Seth. We argued he's newer, quote unquote, geeky things, while I've sort of grown up into it in a different way to Seth here.
Yeah.
You could say.
Yeah. So yeah, this podcast is all about different fandoms and mythologies and things. We're just going to talk about it. Just a disclaimer, it's nothing to do with Greek mythology, so if you came here looking for Greek stuff, this is not the place.
The most I know about Greek mythology is first book of Percy Jackson. That's it.
Percy Jackson. I haven't read Percy Jackson.
Oh yeah, no, that's probably one thing we missed out on. We were younger, which we'll talk about later. This podcast, this first episode is going to be we got into quote geeky stuff, what fandoms, how we got into it in the first place.
It's literally just an introduction.
What about our childhood, maybe? About what we saw as a childhood?
Yeah, we could talk about like how we got into all these things.
But it probably will be mostly about fandoms and fiction, but we may also talk about ourselves. Surface level.
So
compared to other podcasts out there. Sorry, I'm talking.
We've got
I want to explain the part about us being younger than normal podcast hosts. Like,
yeah. So
you mentioned that
we've got a mountain of things to talk about right now. Do you want to hear a joke?
Let's go with the joke first.
Okay, so we've got a mountain of stuff to talk about in our first podcast. Do you know what this mountain is called? You don't know? Mount Cleverest. Get it? It's so bad.
The thing about jokes is funny. Also, they're not funny, but they're funny. But I can't laugh at said funny. I can laugh at talking about the funny.
That was Let's just get started.
Anyway, what I was gonna say, and I was hoping you were gonna say, really, is the fact that majority of the people you'll see doing podcasts are like probably older, past school, like I don't know, 20s, maybe older, who have been in these, who have more experience in life.
Fandom.
Where we late?
We are
late.
We've got a different perspective to things, seeing as we're coming at it from a younger audience. Well,
I'll talk about this
young.
later.
We're not like 6-year-olds who are super interested in Frozen and like. We can like sort of no, but we can look at it from an older perspective and like understand the story a bit more.
We aren't the most invested. I say we aren't the most invested.
It depends on the fandom.
It depends on the fandom, but
as I said, we are geeks in our different interests, I guess.
So that's basically what this is going to be about, right?
Yeah, just fandoms and pop culture, also real life stuff and what we do as teenagers. And, you know,
we're going through what some people might consider important
Mm-hmm.
part of our lives for our
Important,
futures.
very pivotal, and you might not call us mainstream because, like how we watch Frozen. I think we're going to
The
talk
funny
about
thing,
Frozen today.
yeah,
Uh,
the funny thing about what you say there is geeks aren't mainstream anyway,
no,
but we're not mainstream within the mainstream geeks.
wait, what? I'm so
I
confused.
basically searched up the definition for geeks because I
Yeah,
was like, it's like people who aren't like socially inept or aren't mainstream. Then we're here saying we're not mainstream within this not mainstream group.
yes, we are not
Yes.
mainstream.
Yeah, but this
I'm so
episode going
confused.
to be more about how we got into stuff, like I said
Mm-hmm.
earlier. It got to where we are. So,
So,
do you want to start
first
off?
of all, I think we should just talk about what we enjoy and the sort of
Okay,
fandoms we're
yeah.
interested in, seeing as this whole
In the
podcast.
right now, what we like right now,
Okay, what
what
we
will
like
this
right now.
podcast be mainly? Yeah,
So,
what
what do you
what this
like right
table will
now?
be mainly about? Me?
Yeah, what do
Okay,
you
the
like?
biggest thing for me, as you and many people who know me now, is anime, manga, sort of the Japanese shows, as well as cartoons
Japanese.
and animation. Basically, animation is where I stand mainly.
And you like the cartoons, don't you? Like, you
Cartoons,
really
anime,
like
yeah.
the Tangled cartoon.
Oh yeah, no, that okay. We'll talk about specific shows later on, weeks to come.
Yeah, I'm more of
But
a movie person. Like, I do
more of a
watch
movie.
cartoons and TV shows, but in terms of content, I much prefer movies such as Star Wars. Disney and
With it,
Pixar
okay,
is up
within
there.
yeah, Seth, within our school, what
Else,
I like to
yeah,
say and what other people might describe me as is the weeb of our year group.
the weeb,
The one who's
the one
biggest
who's into
into
anime.
cartoons and animes. Yeah, there are others obviously, but like I'm the one who's probably most open about it,
Yeah,
but
you
who
also
discusses it the most.
you run a club that's sort of loosely
It's, well, that club mainly for Beyblades, if
mainly
anybody
for
knows that.
Beyblades. Yeah.
Uh,
Um.
this coming year, as going into this new year, I'll have a bit more power,
Power.
quote power, like sort
Unlimited
of
power.
make it so I can talk more about anime and show more things to said small group of people
So wait,
in the
you're
club.
gonna indoctrinate younger kids into
They brought themselves into this world. I'm just gonna nurture them. Oh god, that
nurture
sounds so
them.
bad.
That sounds
Uh,
that doesn't sound very good.
so that's how we're different.
Yeah,
We like,
you are into anime and I am not.
but we still share interests such as Harry Potter and Star Wars.
Yeah,
Just because I'm into anime only, I still like the things.
I mean you're definitely more into Harry Potter than I am, simply because you send me lots of Harry Potter stuff on social media.
Oh yeah, no, it's because probably a few years ago, um, would it be okay if we said like, oh, we're going into, if you know the British school system, we're going into
Mhm.
year 12, but we're going
Yeah.
to be like near like the late teens, as we
It's
said.
like
But
I don't
yeah,
know. Is this
so
like high
you
school or
go.
something? What do you call it? Like
Yeah, I think this is
seniors or
like
something, whatever.
college, maybe
Sophomores. I have
college.
no idea how
Yeah,
this works.
we'd be going into college per se, but I used to read a lot of books when I was younger, as well as
But
watch
oh yeah,
cartoons.
I never read books as much. Like I never read Harry Potter.
Yeah. Wait, you've never been?
I've never read Harry Potter.
Oh my god, yeah.
Um,
Should we just start talking about
yeah, like
this
I've
then?
never read Harry Potter, and that might sound surprising, seeing as I consider myself a Potterhead, even though some people would be
Uh,
like,
yeah,
"Nah,
no,
you
I
don't
think
deserve that
what it
title."
was for me. Okay, want to start with Harry Potter then, since we're on
Yeah,
the
let's start
subject.
Harry Potter.
Should I go first, since I probably have a bit more of a
Yeah,
story?
You know Harry Potter more than me, and I
Yeah.
assume
I
you got
Okay.
interested
So
in it.
when I was younger, I always used to go to over to one of my uncle's house for like a Christmas party, and they used to play one of the Harry Potter films. I think it was Philosopher's Stone. They used to play
Yeah,
because they had the DVD for it. So from then, I think I used to like sort of look into watching some of the Harry Potter films,
yeah,
and then at school itself in the library, they had quite a few of the Harry Potter books.
yeah. Okay,
So
so You got
I
into
think
it.
I sort of watched the films and read the books around the same time. I think I might have watched some films. I think the year I got into Harry Potter was in year 5 when my guide. Do you know what guided reading
Yeah,
is?
so
Where you
like in
read
year
with a
five, Harry Potter was the right sort of reading level.
teacher. Yeah.
Because like we
So
had different reading
yeah.
levels. Like the younger years would read
Biff and
Biff and
Chip from year
Chip.
2.
And then like when you got older, you'd read
Like,
like Percy Jackson, Artemis Fowl, Harry Potter, that sort of thing.
yeah.
The bigger books, the
And
one with
so
yeah.
year 5 guided reading, Philosopher's Stone was one of our books. And you know how we're meant to read it week by week with
Yeah,
everybody else, sort
yeah.
of. I think a half term came in between when we were reading it. So the teacher told us, "Oh, get up to chapter 20." I finished the
Oh,
book. Finished the book in
jeez.
like a day or two.
I mean,
Like
unlike you, I
Philosopher's
never
Stone
read
is a small
books.
book. We used to go to a library on a weekly basis, and we had to take out a book. So I'd normally take out a book, and what I was into back then was animals. So there's this series called Animal Arc. We'd get into that another day, probably.
Another
But
podcast.
if we ever talk about it, but Harry Potter was a series that I realized. Let me read the books. Thing is, I read the books completely out of order.
What? How could you understand Harry Potter if you don't read it in order?
I think I read it relatively in order. I read one
Ah,
and two first,
yeah.
and I think I read 4 and 5 because I have 5 right here behind my laptop here, which I got from a cousin, which I never gave back, but I have it here
Wait,
now.
so you borrowed a book from your cousin and you just never gave it back?
Yeah, pretty much that's my life story with schools. I take books from said school, they never go back.
Wait, what?
Okay, that's for another time as
No.
well. So many things I can say for another time. But Harry Potter, I basically the third book was the last book I read because it wasn't in the library, but it was a guided reading book. So my year 6 teacher let me borrow it from the classroom itself.
Yeah. So you
So
read
I
the
completed
whole
that
you read the whole
series.
series.
I've read the whole series. Then when it comes to the films, I did watch the films in order. Don't worry. I
Yeah,
think
I watched the films in order because normally
I
on
think I did.
TV they release it like weekly. So sometimes during Christmas they'd
Yeah.
release all the films.
There is one thing I can say about the films. When it came to Half-Blood Prince, I think I'd lost my Harry Potter steam by then. So I think it was only like a few months later when I finally actually finished Half-Blood Prince and went on to
Ah,
finish Deathly Hallows. This
yeah.
happens to me a lot with anime, with any shows. I normally sort of lose my steam while watching them sometimes. So I'll
Yeah.
finish this. I'll finish like the last 3 episodes of like a 12 episode series months later, maybe even years later.
Yeah.
That's something I can say.
Wasn't
So
you
what's your experience with Harry Potter
So
with
with
these
Harry
things?
Potter, I only got interested when the films came out on on TV. Like I never
Yeah,
read the
where
books.
I'd say the
This was like
time I can remember a Harry Potter film coming out was probably Deathly Hallows Part 1 or 2.
yeah,
I think Deathly Hallows Part 1, 2012, I think that was,
yeah,
is when I
I was
remember seeing posters
probably
for Harry
like
Potter.
maybe
Like 8?
6 years ago,
8,
maybe
9?
when I first saw the 6 or 7,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I think
yeah, it came out on
2012 is when
TV,
Deathly Hallows came out.
and
No,
yeah,
I remember seeing posters for one of the Deathly Hallows films, and I was like, "Oh, it's that thing. It's that thing, Harry
thing
Potter."
is we never grew up with the Harry Potter films. Like
We
I think you
we
have to
were
be
too young to.
a 90s
Yeah,
kid to have like grown
yeah.
up.
I can get into a whole being a 90s kid later on as well in another
Like
episode. I can talk about
when Deathly Hallows
uh,
came out in 2010, was it 2010 or
what age.
2012?
I think it was 2012. I think it was
Yeah, so
2012.
I would have.
But okay.
We
Even in
weren't old
2010, we
enough,
were only
really.
like 6 years old,
Yeah, we weren't old
probably.
enough to like
No,
watch
no, no.
these things. So I only
We weren't
got
old enough to be
interested.
conscious of these things.
Yeah, I only got
So,
interested when the films came out on TV many years later, and I
oh,
never read the books.
I can talk about my childhood and TV and why I'm like this today. Do you want to first talk about some other fandoms
Let's just
before I
talk
get
about
into
some
that?
other fandoms, but I want to talk about the only Harry Potter book that I've read, and you might not consider it a book. It's more of a play script.
Fantastic Beasts.
Nah, it's a
Oh,
play.
Play Squeak.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Cursed
I read
Child.
that too.
Only book,
I read that too.
only thing to do with Star Wars that I read.
Star Wars, Harry Potter, you mean?
Oh, Harry Potter, yeah. I mean, with Star Wars,
Yeah.
I've read lots of stuff.
We'll get to Star Wars right
Let's
after
go
this.
into Star
So
Wars because that's my
yeah,
my
Cursed Child. We don't
speciality.
need to talk about that.
Cursed Child's not
We
canon.
don't need to talk about.
Apparently, it's
It's not canon.
a really good show on the theatre. So
Yeah, because if you think about it, Harry Potter, you always like feel, oh, with the film they can do editing and special effects.
yeah, but
It's
apparently
none of that.
the play is actually really good, but the
Yeah,
book
because they have to
itself,
recreate.
but reading it itself is not as good as an experience.
No.
And you can definitely see the plot holes and all that when you're reading, because
Yeah.
it's just literally on your paper, on your page. So anyway, Star Wars. How did you get interested in Star Wars?
Oh, no. I think you should start
I'll start. Okay.
Star Wars.
Well, I started when Episode 7 came out. So, not that long ago, and the sequel trilogy was the big thing
5
for
years
me.
ago.
The thing that
5 years ago is when Force Awakens came
yeah,
out.
the thing that
I know that for sure.
introduced me to Star Wars was the sequel trilogy, and I know people don't like it, but I do. Like, I mean, there are problems, definitely, but Force
I can
Awakens.
get.
The thing is, with Force Awakens,
Yeah.
I
No.
didn't know what it was all about. I didn't know Star Wars, but they advertised and marketed Force Awakens quite well. So I went and watched it, and there were all these references to like other films, and I didn't really know who Darth Vader was and the whole backstory and all that. And then basically watching
Yeah.
Force Awakens made me watch the rest because I wanted to understand what
You
was
are
going on.
literally part of the new generation with that. You could say your gateway was Force Awakens, the
That was the
newest trilogy,
Yeah, and
sequel
then
trilogy.
the prequels came out on TV. Like, so I normally I would have just not watched them. I would have skipped them out. But when I saw Force Awakens and then the prequels were out on TV, I was like, I'm gonna watch these. So then I watched the prequels first. So I watched it in order of chronologically in order in universe.
Yeah.
So rather than out of universe order, which was episode 4, because that came out first, I watched it in universe chronologically. So episode 1 to 6. Yeah,
I can talk
I
about
can't do
that too.
maths.
Yeah. But do you have anything else to say?
So started with episode 7. I did 1 through to 6. Though I do remember after watching the prequels, I sort of stopped because it was quite hard to get the originals
You
because they
stopped.
don't show them on
Yeah.
TV. It's quite hard to find DVDs and stuff of them, and I didn't have them. I know some people have the DVDs because maybe their parents grew up with Star Wars, but my parents didn't. I sort of dragged them
So
into
should
Star
I
Wars, I guess.
sort of drag them in?
Drag them in.
I talk about my experience with Star Wars
Yeah.
then?
So how did
I know for a fact that I definitely got into Star Wars before you did.
when
I
was
haven't
that?
talked about you. Okay, I know for a fact. The episode 1 of Star Wars Rebels came out. I watched it, right?
Oh, that was like
That's
2014.
that was October 2014.
Yeah.
Like a year and a bit before Force Awakens came out.
Was this season 1? Season 1 of Rebels.
Season 1, Spark of
Yeah.
Rebellion, episode 1 to 2. One thing I can't be sure of is whether I watched the prequels before or after Rebels. But I have a feeling that I watched the prequels before Rebels came out. I think.
Yeah.
I think I watched it probably year 4 or 5. I probably watched it close to when Rebels came out, but before Rebels came out. And like you, I decided, oh, it's probably best to watch it episode 1 through whatever, to start with the start, essentially.
Yeah, I
Episode
didn't
1.
really know episode 4 came out first.
No.
I only found out when I watched it. And I could...
I can say something here, right?
Yeah.
Year 7, you remember we had this project to make sort of a space-themed project in DT.
Oh yeah,
So
I
one
remember
of our
that.
friends,
Oh no,
he
he's
was
fine.
he was doing a Star Wars
The
based
Star
one,
Wars
right?
one, yeah.
Like he was researching stuff. So had a picture of the original Obi-Wan from the original
The
trilogy
original
on his
Obi-Wan.
screen.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Oh, that's the original Obi-Wan." I was like, "It can't be possible because Episode One Obi-Wan looks different to that."
Yeah.
See where I'm going
Yeah,
with
no,
this?
it's the same with me. I thought it was the prequels first that came out. But then when I saw the originals, you could definitely tell it was made in the 70s, just
No,
with the
like
quality of everything.
you can
I mean,
just tell. Each trilogy has like probably a 15, 16 year gap between the first film of one trilogy and the first film of another trilogy.
apart from the sequels, that came out. Oh, yeah, 15
It's
years. Yeah.
still like
Still quite some
15,
time.
14 years. Like Star Wars is a really long lasting.
It's generational. Like,
It's generational.
um, your
It,
parents,
I
our parents would grow
Yeah.
up with the originals, then you've got millennials growing up with the prequels, then you've got sort of our generation slash younger, I
Except for
guess.
me, I'm like the first generation into anything media wise, probably. Because my parents, they're
They're
immigrants
not.
to this country.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about the internet. I have to teach them everything.
Like,
It,
my parents didn't really watch movies. Well, I haven't really talked about what movies they watched, so I don't really know.
like in terms of all of this, I could argue, I'm sort of in between the generations of sequel and prequel, because I watched the prequels 2 or 3 years before the sequels came out, and then I started watching Rebels.
Yeah.
So I have yet to see the original trilogy
You haven't
as
seen
well.
the original trilogy. Oh my.
That, it's a stupid reason that I have with a lot of things. A lot of things I don't want to watch are gory things or things with a lot of blood. So I think
What?
the version of episode one that I found is one where they didn't have the sort of laser cut, straight burnt cut of a
What?
arm, right? It's where they had blood coming out of it.
Is that a
Eh,
thing?
no, no, yeah.
Uh,
Episode one.
the
I think
prequels
because
seem more dodgy and more
okay,
gross than
the
the
version of
originals,
episode
in my
no, not
opinion.
episode one, not episode one. I meant
Episode
episode
4.
four.
Yeah.
Episode four. I meant I think what happened with the I think originally episode the original trilogy had stuff like blood in it. I don't know whether when it was reintroduced into cinemas in the 90s whether they changed it. But when
I
I
don't
saw the
know.
blood, when I saw the blood, okay, I will stop and I'll come back to this later.
Okay, but
Never came back
how
to it.
did you not get put off by episode 2 where Anakin chops off Count Dooku's head? Do you remember that
I have
scene?
no idea. I have no idea. I just watched it.
It's the duet scene, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
know, but I just went with
That
it.
was
I just watched it.
that was pretty gruesome. The
It
original
was,
trilogy, the worst they did was cut off Luke's hand. Is that a spoiler?
yes.
I mean, it's not really a
Well, actually,
spoiler,
they
is
cut
it?
off a whole arm of somebody's in the first episode.
I don't remember, but yeah.
It's when they're in the bar when Luke first meets
Oh, that
Obi-Wan.
one,
Obi-Wan
yeah.
takes out the lightsaber,
On
and
Tatooine.
that's the scene when I sort of stopped watching it because I was like, oh god, that's a lot of blood.
They
I
had
think it
blood.
was the blood that put me off.
Ah, well,
Okay, something I know from a podcast that sort of inspires us, popcorn culture, is that late
you
nineties
cut
they
out for
all
like a good 10 seconds.
okay. But what I said is I know from popcorn culture,
Yeah,
right? With this podcast that made us want to do this as well, is the originals had a run in the 80s in cinemas, right?
yeah.
Then in the 90s, they sort of redid them they re sort of showed them in cinemas.
Yeah, they did, they added stuff, didn't they? I mean, they
Yeah,
did lots of re-releases with new edits. Like, I remember when I mean, I don't
yeah,
remember personally because I wasn't there, but I know
weren't
of a
born.
time when they replaced the old Anakin ghost with the prequel Anakin ghost.
uh,
They
you
also
had a
added
ghost in prequels
no. So basically, in one of the scenes, they have Anakin come back as a Force ghost.
in
Uh,
the last
the
scene, in
last
one of the
scene,
last scenes,
yeah.
right?
And they had this actor, the same actor who played Darth Vader, but he was wearing Jedi robes to show that he went back to the light side. But then at some point they used Hayden Christensen and basically removed the old guy and brought in the Anakin from the prequels.
that would be the
to
Anakin
be the
people would
ghost.
know now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And they also added like CGI stuff, you know.
And if there's one thing I can say about Star Wars and the fandoms that I'm in, right? Like Harry Potter, Star Wars, and anime, right?
Mhm.
Um, one thing I've come to know very well, come to know of, but not very well because I haven't started it, is cosplay,
Cosplay, yep.
right?
And all the
Yeah. That,
conventions.
yeah. So you know of a very famous act that's very much in the news.
You cut out.
You know about TikTok, an app
Yep,
that's in the news.
TikTok, yep.
But TikTok, that the app itself, people have sort of separated into straight TikTok,
So
which
what's that? The dancing and
dancing and the normal
the
people.
memes, I
There's the
guess.
other side, which I assume they did a straight TikTok because there's also LGBTQ
Yep.
plus people on the TikTok. But I think sort of weebs, anime, Star Wars, nerdy stuff also
The
kind of
nerdy stuff.
integrates into
The geeky
not
side.
straight TikTok.
The
But
not
yeah, like
mainstream.
cosplayers.
Not mainstream.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
like
what I've seen from that is a lot of memes and a lot of jokes, and I love the sort of things people do. I just find it
what do they do?
hilarious.
Like
And I see some people, like I know one guy on the app who's like, I really like sort of cosplayers and the sort of comedy they come up with, and the amount of youngling jokes you see of people doing, like Anakin just strolling in.
and then he just
There's
kills all the
it's
younglings.
sort of yeah, sort of like Master Skywalker.
What are we gonna
There's too many
do?
of you. What are we gonna do? And it's just this sort of music where it's just like dun dun dun, and it's just Anakin walking in, and
Igniting
I
his
don't know, it's just
lightsaber.
funny.
Uh,
I think we can get onto something like that another day when I have more coherent thoughts about what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um
I suppose the next big thing to talk about, other than your newest Netflix show that you like, is Disney and Pixar
Disney and
right now.
Pixar, yeah. That is I've been super into Disney, especially recently when I watched
Oh,
Frozen 2, you know?
did you see anything in your childhood with Disney? Which I assume is a
Loads.
yes. Yes.
Ah, I
What would
don't
what
know.
would you think is your first Disney film? I think that's a good thing to say
Yeah,
because
so my
unlike Star Wars,
first,
unlike Star Wars and Harry Potter, it's not a coherent series. Bunch of different
yeah,
fandoms, different shows,
I
all
think
in
the
one.
first Disney film I saw, yeah, I can't really remember. I
I
definitely didn't
know
see Tangled when it came out. I
Tangled
didn't see
came out
Frozen when it
2010.
came out. I saw Frozen at home.
Either. I saw
Uh,
Frozen like a year after it came out. Thing. I do know what my first Disney film I think is.
mhm.
It is actually because I had it on VHS on cassette. I had a Disney
You
film
had,
on
wait,
cassette.
you had something on a VHS.
Yes, cassette is what I used to call it
What
because my
is it?
parents
What
always
film? Is it Lion King or
Snow
something?
White.
Snow. Oh, the old one.
Not only the
The
old one,
first one.
the first one.
The first Disney animated feature film, I think.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. Other than like Mickey Mouse, which was like a cartoon,
Yeah, but like
small sort of
they
cartoon,
weren't
but the
feature
first
films.
film,
Yeah.
Snow White, which I obviously didn't know till like probably a year or two
I
ago.
don't
I
remember
found out it was
my
the oldest.
first Disney film. I do remember my first Pixar film.
Oh, do you know why I remember that so vividly? Is because I watched it so many times, right? Because it was right there for me to watch,
Yeah,
right?
it's
My TV.
accessible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I probably I don't know a number count obviously because this was when I was like probably 4, 5, like that age.
Yeah.
But I watched it multiple times a month, maybe like maybe 2 or 3, maybe 2 times at least, or at least once a month. I might have watched it because it was there. I loved it. I loved sort of Snow White and talking to animals and the animals sort of going on.
Mhm. I don't
And
really remember my first Disney film, as I said, but I do remember my first Pixar film,
it was
which was, I
so
think, Toy Story 2
two,
or
right?
3. When did Toy Story 2 come out? Uh,
Toy Story came out in like the '90s.
yeah, Toy Story 1 came out in the 90s. I was definitely not old enough for that. Oh,
Yeah.
Toy Story 2 is also really old.
When was it?
1999. So maybe it
Oh,
was Toy
okay.
Story 3, but
I feel like Toy Story 1 came out late 80s, actually. I'm not even
no, it's
sure.
like
Which baffled me when I
1996.
found out. I was like, animation looks really clean and nice.
Okay, Toy Story
I
came out in
didn't.
95. Toy Story 2 was
Oh,
99.
okay. Not 80s then.
Yeah, so I
80s.
probably watched them at home on some DVD or something. But I do remember
I could.
watching them.
I think Disney actually leads really well. We can come back to Disney quickly, but I just want to say there's a reason why I'm into so many cartoons and so many shows. Is because of course, I had a TV. I
Yeah.
watched cartoons on TV. I had CBB, CBBC. The ITV was a different story for me because I only had it on the weekends.
Oh, was that on
You see,
was it on ITV where they showed it in the
no,
mornings?
CITV.
Yeah, I mean like, but you only had it on the weekend. Like the actual
Yeah,
channel only came out on the
I think
weekend.
for me, I think
Oh, that's
ITV
interesting.
channels, I was really limited, right?
Yeah,
What I could watch. I didn't have stuff like Pop or Tiny Pop or Cartoon Network or Boomerang and stuff like that.
Disney
Probably the things
Channel.
we had in the UK. Yeah, that's something I really regret not having Disney Channel. Nickelodeon, how could I forget? One of the biggest ones.
Yeah, so you're super interested in shows. Like as I said, I'm more into movies, but more recently I've been getting into shows. So I was mainly into films until things like Mandalorian came out.
Where you started watching
Then I
live
started
action shows.
watching shows in general. So Mandalorian
Yeah.
came out, and then Clone Wars season 7 was announced, and I was like, I need to watch the
Yes.
whole series. So I watched the whole series, seasons 1 to 6. And then I finished early. I had like 1 month before season 7 came out, and I was like, okay, I've made it a normal thing to watch TV shows. I might as well watch something else. So I started watching Rebels, like
Ah,
pretty
yeah.
late on. I only watched Rebels like really recently.
Yeah, like earlier this year.
Yeah, you probably watched it when you were the right age.
I was
Like,
watching it as it came out.
yeah, as it came out, and I only watched it really recently.
Of course, I finished. Like I said, do you know how I talked about, how I sort of leave things off and finish it months later?
Yeah.
That's what happened with me and Rebels. I sort of finished it maybe like 4 months later after it finished.
Do you think it's more impactful, or if you're watching it at the right target age?
Target age. Oh, I
Like,
thought you
so
were
for
gonna mention
Rebels,
time.
so for
Target
Rebels,
age.
like, if you're watching it as a, I don't know, 12-year-old or 10-year-old,
Yeah.
do you think it's better? You've got a better experience?
Suppose one thing that would impact it is how much you're into. Say it's a a show that's completely unrelated to
Yeah,
a fact. Like Star Wars is tied into Star Wars, obviously.
yeah.
Like age, as long as you're into Star Wars, you can probably enjoy Rebels or maybe be nitty picky and say, "Oh, I don't like that," but you can still like enjoy it to a certain extent.
I think it's harder for
But
older people to enjoy it though, because I know lots of people who like the Clone Wars, as in the Clone Wars TV show,
yeah,
but then don't like Rebels as much. But then I feel like if you're growing up with Rebels and then you decide to watch the Clone Wars, you would also like the Clone Wars, and you'd like both of them. I don't know.
yeah. For me, I can talk about opinions on things. Is I don't hold strong opinions against a lot of things, mainly
You're
negative opinions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lots of
I don't think too
people.
much about when I'm watching something, right?
Hmm.
And it's also
Same for
probably
me.
because this podcast is about fandoms. I don't go into fandoms much.
You
I don't
don't,
delve into and talk to other people about fandom. Yeah,
but you
uh,
should.
yeah. It's because
I shall
certain
drag you
fandoms.
in. I shall drag you into
Yeah,
the nitty gritty of
yeah,
fandoms. I mean, I can only do that to one, Star Wars. I don't really know the
yeah,
others as
yeah,
much.
yeah. When it comes to Disney, can I just mention one thing about Disney?
Yep.
About films actually, stuff
Films,
like
movies,
Disney's not the only film studio that I really like. Obviously, DreamWorks. I'm a
DreamWorks.
huge fan.
Oh, was that How to Train Your Dragon?
How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda,
Yeah, they're
like
pretty
that.
cool, but I
Uh,
don't really feel the
That is
magic.
DreamWorks.
I don't find the magic in them for some reason.
Panda, man. Yeah, no.
The reason why I like Star Wars and Harry Potter and Disney, especially with Frozen, is the magic. They've all got this like
You've mentioned that in the
mystical
notes,
all
and
this
all heavily
mystical.
tied.
Yeah, they've all got this like mystical magical thing that people could use, and you've got magical powers, and you could do stuff with your magic. It's very surreal and not
Yeah,
very fantasy, and I like that. I
yeah.
like fantasy. I mean, that's why Frozen for me is. I
Huge thing.
prefer it over other Disney films. I mean,
Yeah,
like the other
no,
ones are fine, but
I think it came out
magic.
2014, so when we were just leaving primary school around that time. Oh no, no, it came out probably early into like when we were in 2014 is when we started year six or something like that.
Hmm.
And then I actually watched it like maybe a year later, probably when we were going into like year seven.
You watched
And
Frozen,
I watched Frozen probably like
yeah.
I watched it in year seven, and I think I watched it two times within like weeks. It's when I first watched it.
Yeah.
If you, uh,
I
and
watched. I didn't. I only
yeah,
saw Frozen 1. I only saw that once, so I don't really
seen Frozen
remember it.
two.
I've seen Frozen 2
Nice.
twice. Do you think I'll see Frozen 3
Oh,
3 times if it comes out? If it comes
Frozen
out,
3 is not good. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't know. I feel like they might release it simply because they're gonna make money. They're gonna
Not gonna
make
be
lots of
making money
money.
off of the musicals. It's a Frozen musical.
There
I think.
is.
Yeah.
Is it?
I don't think it's in the UK though.
Is it the musical where I always see these videos of shouting puddle, and they've
Oh
in this
no no
live
no! I
action sort
don't
of
know if it's that
Frozen
musical.
sing along sort of thing?
Because that's sort of sing along, watch along. Like
Is that a
there's
different
one
thing?
really good video. I
Uh,
think it's a different thing. I don't know too much about it, but
they
still
have
gaining.
they
They're
have
still
this
gaining off
live
of
sing
Frozen.
along, and one
Yeah.
guy shouts puddle in that song. It's quite funny. So with all the magic, I just find it super magical. Like I really enjoy all this fantasy, seeing people do all these perform all these powers and things with their magical gifts,
I love magic.
and I think that's super fun. Like I think
Magic is fun.
it's more of the jealousy of wanting to do it for yourself. I mean,
Oh,
I'd love
absolutely.
to have the force and just use the force to grab the TV remote
Oh yeah.
or
Oh
stuff
yeah.
like that.
No.
Make things
Stuff like
freeze.
magic, really, really awesome.
Sometimes I really wish I was also a wizard in the Harry Potter world.
I
I
think,
kind of wanted.
honestly, do you know in terms of magic, Harry Potter compared to other sort of things, like Harry Potter, it's all done through a wand,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think it's called a soft and hard system. Not sure. Like
This is really geeky stuff right now. I don't even know what you're
in
talking
Harry
about.
in Harry Potter, it's all done through the wand.
The
Everybody
wand.
can do almost all types of magic. There are exceptions like animagus and whatever the hell
And you
Tonks
also
is.
get wandless magic if you're really good.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Voldemort,
I
he can
like
do stuff without the
in stuff
wand.
like I'm just gonna go off into stuff like we haven't watched. I don't think you've watched this yet. I've watched some of this, but of a different thing. Avatar.
I've only seen the first episode.
I've seen Legends of Korra, the first two seasons of Legends of
Is that a
Korra, the
different show?
sequel. It's a sequel to The Last Airbender. I have
Ah,
not seen The Last Airbender, but stuff like that and Fairy Tale, which you know as an anime that
it's
I
an
really
anime.
like. What they have a different system to Harry Potter where people have more specialized abilities, specialized magic, which only they can use. While in Harry Potter, it's a wide system where
Yeah,
everybody can
anyone
start
could
cast like
learn anything.
the sort of thing that Avatar and Fairy Tale have is like maybe stuff like Avatar, more specifically elements, where you can only
Yeah,
do one type of bending. The exception is the Avatar.
and yeah,
It's
yeah.
more specific abilities, and so I think
And
I
that's
prefer
kind of
stuff where
similar with Star Wars as well, where whilst it is kind of like Harry Potter, where you can learn lots of different powers, there are certain things you can't learn because you're restricted by your species or your allegiance. So, like the dark side people can't use the light side. The light side people
so
can't use the
what
dark
one
side.
specific ability we can name here is lightning.
Yeah, Sith lightning. Only the darkest of dark people can use that. And there are also some powers that you are kind of born with. I think you can't really learn it.
Ooh,
born with
ooh,
it.
ooh. Ray and Kylo, their
So
connection.
yeah, you've got Rey and Kylo with their
It's like
connection.
one. He said that's like a 1 in a million thing that ever
Yeah.
happens.
But then you've also got force powers like psychometry, which is when you touch something, you can sort of see the history and see the memories of this object.
Something that's I think it's something I've known about recently where people are highly like what is a misconception that Force Ghost is purely a light side thing.
I think it
No,
is.
no, it's not.
Is it not?
I think
But
it's
George Lucas
I'm
said it
pretty
was or
sure.
something. A
Really?
force
Okay,
ghost
never mind. Okay.
itself is a light side only thing, like where
It
you
might be
could.
some it might be a thing that maybe the Sith can do, but they just are unaware of it, maybe.
I don't think so. I think the force ghost is a light side only thing, and that's why the dark side people are always talking about immortality and trying to stay alive.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
because
no.
they when they die, they die. They can't come back. That's why they're always like
Uh, do you
talking about
sort of see
clones and all that to try and extend their life.
what I mean by like something like how there's different systems of
Yeah,
abilities in different sort of
different fandoms,
universes.
different
Yeah,
universes.
like there are some things where Harry Potter would be amazing because you can learn spells and
You can learn
learn the
stuff.
whole. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can learn stuff. But in stuff like Avatar, it would still be cool to shoot fire out your hands or control water.
but then if you're not
Um,
born with it,
uh,
you can't.
like the thing in fairy tale is fact there are actually two. See, I shouldn't get too deep into this since you don't know much about it, but there's something called ability type magic which you can use with your own body. Then there's holder type magic which depends on an item you have, but it still depends on your attribute and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But it's just sort of the different systems, and I think I'd prefer more an ability. An ability based thing would be more restrictive, but Harry Potter would be also cool because you can sort of Expelliarmus,
Yeah.
Expecto Patronum, and stuff.
So I think we've talked a lot about our fandoms and what we enjoy. So we're
We
gonna
could
move on.
even,
We're
yeah.
gonna move on now to a different part of the podcast, and I think we'll just start this off with a joke sort of thing. Do you want to hear this
Another
really
one.
bad joke?
I'm not sure.
Why aren't koalas actual bears?
Could either say the real answer, I could either say I don't know, or I could say the actual joke's
Do you
answer.
know the answer? I feel like you do. It's quite
I do know
obvious.
it because
Pretty
of a spin off
obvious.
about this joke. But
Okay.
I'll say I don't know.
Okay, you don't know. Fine, fine. Because they don't meet the qualifications.
So why else they aren't bears?
Why? Why aren't they bears?
Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm doing
Is
this.
it because
Okay.
they're small?
No, no, no. I can't find the name. I can't remember the word. It's because they're like Mesopotamians or something.
What?
They're not considered bears because they're not bears.
Oh, they're like. Oh, I know the word. I know the word. They're marsupials.
Yeah, that's it. The
It's
joke
like.
that I always hear is it's sort of this voice, it's sort of this sound on TikTok and stuff where it's like, oh, why aren't bears koalas? It's because they're marsupials. No, it's because they don't meet the qualifications. And the person
Yeah.
who says the jokes is like, we do.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh god, we just got into a joke.
Now time for the next part of the
Go
podcast. This
ahead.
sounds like a game show, but it's
Oh
not.
yeah.
Like a chat show. Your favorite song of the week.
Oh right. Oh no, I completely missed that, and
Yeah.
I was looking at the next part. We've been going on for a while, so let's just talk
Song
about
of the
the
week.
specific song we have here.
Yeah.
Other side. How do
The
you feel
Other
about the
Side.
other side?
The Other Side from The Greatest Showman. The
Which I
show.
have yet to
Yeah.
finish.
You haven't seen.
Not finished that
This
film
is a
either.
clear example of
Do you
your
know
tendency
something? Can I just
to
say
not
something?
complete things.
The thing about the song is right. So I started the film like probably in December last year, and I got up to maybe when the circus showed up, right, or like after that. Then
Mm-hmm.
while watching it in business studies, because it's
You
a really good
watch.
film, the guy's good at business. It,
Okay.
the,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the person that I'm
What's
thinking
his
of
name?
the actor's name now.
Hugh Jackman.
Jackman, the person he plays himself, he's a good businessman, and that's why he's successful.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is,
Yeah.
while watching it in business studies, the song we got up to is this song,
The Other Side.
The Other
When
Side.
you go to the bar and you sing a song.
Yeah, casually.
Yeah.
What do you like about this song?
I like how it's a duet. I think it's really cool how they just. It's
Duets are
almost like a
always good.
chat. It's almost like they're talking. I mean,
That's
they are
that's
talking to
literally
each
why
other.
I like it. That's what my favorite part of the song is when they're discussing the percentage that they want.
Yeah, they're literally like
That's
the
my
song.
favorite part of the song.
The song becomes a negotiation, like a meeting, like a business meeting.
It is a negotiation.
Yeah,
It is a meeting for Zac Efron's character
I
have
don't know
a
his
part.
name. With the other side, I really like the song that I almost performed it at school. I remember auditioning for the song with the song. Um, but never happened.
It is. It
I
is
don't know
a
if
good
that's a good
song.
thing or a bad thing because I don't think I could sing that song
I do
without
like the
getting
song because
very very worried.
at the start, right, they're sort of singing it almost they're singing the chorus separately at the start, right?
hmm
Then at the end, after they've decided on 10% of the show, right, go into the chorus together,
Yeah. I was gonna sing it
and
as
I
I
love
said
that.
at school, and I was singing Zac Efron's part, but he sings it really high. I don't know, and
Yeah,
my vocal range is not that high, so I was struggling
yeah.
to sing that high.
We can talk about
Um,
probably another thing in our childhood we missed out on, including Zac Efron's High School Musical. But we can talk about
yeah,
that
never
another
saw
time
High
if you
School
ever wanted.
Musical.
Never saw it.
Lots of my
I saw
friends,
like I saw the first 10 minutes. I think
I
I
remember
was watching it
people
online.
talking about it in primary school, like they were talking about High School Musical a lot. It must have been quite popular, but I never got interested in it.
You know. But now they also have a Disney Plus show called High School Musical.
The musical, the series, or something like that.
Oh yeah,
It's like
it's just so that's I think that's the whole joke about the show. Is the name's just so obnoxiously long.
long.
But
And I think,
we've been going for a while now, so
yeah,
we should
let's
probably get
let's
into.
wrap up with the question of the week.
Did I ask you the question since you asked
You
about the
can
song?
ask me the question.
So, depending on your own thoughts or what that was canonically said, to do with the film Frozen 2, which amazing, amazing songs. We can talk about Frozen 2 in depth another time. But the question this week is why do you think Anna, or why did Anna become Queen of Arendelle?
So why did Anna become the queen? Wow.
You want to talk canonically or something else?
Sometimes I ask this question myself, and my answer's not even that great. But I think it's because
Wait, going surface
Elsa,
level. How dare you?
Elsa just doesn't want to be queen.
That's it.
No, because
Okay.
in show your no, not show yourself. In Into the Unknown, one of the lines is that she's not meant to be here. Like,
Uh,
are you someone like me who I don't know the words?
Yeah. No, can I say can I say
Yep.
something that I because I've only seen the film once and I watched it in cinemas, which means I can't like go back and watch it again and stuff
Yep.
like that. I remember as I was watching it, the reason that Elsa gave is like, oh, I belong in the nature with the
Yeah.
nomad
With
people, not the
the
nomad people,
and she belongs in the
Dahanju
forest.
or whatever. And what she says is fifth spirit is like a bridge, which she's a fifth spirit, but it's like there's two ends to it. And so she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go. So Anna, you're queen now, because we need that sort of connection, you know."
Okay, I found the line in Into the Unknown. So one of the lines is, "Who knows deep down I'm not where I'm meant to be." So I think there Elsa is not satisfied with her role as the queen. She wants to
Uh,
explore,
yeah.
basically. She wants to be out with the spirits, and maybe that's
Can
why
I
she
just
gave.
say a thought that I had right now? Is
Yep,
the reason they gave in the show without going into the fact too much of the fact that oh god no, Elsa
Elsa.
preferred to be somewhere else. Can get into Urza's name and Ezra's name and Elsa's name. They're also
Ezra.
confusing
Ezra
sometimes.
Bridger from Rebels.
Yeah, but basically what it is what the thought that I had. Reason Anna's queen and the reason Elsa's basically queen of nature, or I guess you could say. I say it's a political arrangement between the human technological development that could ruin nature
Yep.
and nature. It's a political
It's
agreement between the spirits, mankind.
Elsa's become like a
and
diplomat and like
Basically,
making
yeah.
sure that there's peace. She's like, yeah, like an ambassador almost.
I would never have thought about that
But
if
also, Anna
like
would make a
question.
really good queen because
She's compassionate.
she's compassionate.
The first song of the film,
Something's never
things never
changed.
change. One of
Also,
the lines that they say is, "Our flag will always
bye.
fly."
And also, one of the deleted songs is Home.
Takes home. She really
She
cares about
loves
Arendelle.
her home. She's like, if the best person to rule Arendelle had to be one person, it had to be Anna because she's super dedicated.
Of course, Elsa was always stuck in her room. Anna grew up as the energetic, the eccentric. I don't know if that's the word, but she's more fit to rule a kingdom. We can talk about Frozen a whole lot. I think we've been going on for a long time, so another episode, maybe next episode or another.
We'll talk about Frozen.
We'll talk about Frozen again. I hate that they took out the outtakes.
Sal,
Understand
do not bring up even more topics about the deleted scenes.
But that was the first episode.
Yeah, this is our first episode. Thanks for listening to our first podcast. It's been
with what we said,
it's been a
I'm
ride.
just gonna say this. We can talk a lot more about even what we talked here, because I can say a lot more if I'm reminded about it, obviously. About my childhood as well. I can talk about my childhood and shows a lot
literally
more.
on my screen right now is this 4-page document with different things we could talk about. So yeah, if you wanna stick around and maybe hear more of our stories and more of the topics that we want to talk about, be sure to follow us on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you're listening from. And if you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the near future, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see you again.
Yes, and as always,
see you again.
as always, it would be super appreciated if you could share this podcast to friends. Basically, spread the word, because we're just starting out, and
we're just little seedlings.
We're just a little seedling.
Yeah, and it's a good way for us to talk about these things that we probably would normally just talk about in school and have nobody else to talk about it with.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll see you in the next podcast, I guess. Goodbye.
Bye.
I don't know the character's name. I only know P.T. Barnum.
So his name was Barney. I'll be honest.
And then I call Zendaya Zendaya. I don't know her character's name at all.
Zendaya's in it?
She plays.
Is that Zac Efron's interest?
Yeah, and she plays the trapeze person.
Efron's characters love.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother song to talk about. Another.
Pause.
I really like that.
Your audio's getting worse for some reason.